Back during the 90s, as every other mascot platform began their journey into the third dimension, Kirby did not. Mario and Sonic and Bubsy all made the transition, as well as new ones like Crash and Spyro starting their lives in 3D. Kirby instead became one of the earliest 2.5D games with Kirby 64. The characters and backgrounds all had much more depth than before, the levels had physical curves around corners, but Kirby himself was still locked to the X and Y axes. And every Kirby game since, aside from the racing one and the golf one, have remained the same. That is, until March 2022, when Kirby did finally make his true 3D appearance in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I personally don't have too much experience with the Kirby franchise. I've always liked the little guy, I just haven't played too many of his games. My experience outside of Let's Plays doesn't expand past a few of his outings on the Nintendo DS. But when I first saw Kirby brush the sand from his face and jump into the Z-axis during the reveal trailer, I was immediately sold. Now, the Forgotten Land is actually a somewhat unique experience for me. Most of the games I play are solely single-player experiences, but the first time I played through was with my little sister. Being the good brother, I let her have fun with Kirby while I played as Bandana Waddle Dee. And yeah, playing as Bandana Waddle Dee isn't the best. I didn't get any fun abilities or control of the camera, but I was able to do my best to shepherd my sister while letting her have as much fun as she could. And while I did play the game to completion alone afterwards, this time I have a slightly different perspective than I normally would. Kirby and the Forgotten Lands opens with the titular Kirby walking through his home of Dreamland, before a vortex rips open the sky and sucks him and everyone else into the titular Forgotten Land. Upon waking, he finds the Waddle Dees from Dreamland are being captured by a bunch of cute doggies and whittle birds. So with the help of a new friend Elfilin and potentially Bandana Waddle Dee, Kirby sets off to rescue the captured Waddle Dees and find a way back home. But before meeting Elfilin, Kirby discovers his new power and the main mechanic of the Forgotten Land. Defending himself from a horde of cute awoofies, the aforementioned dogs, Kirby sucks up both the pack and an entire car. But instead of voring the car into the black nothingness that is Kirby's stomach, he finds himself wrapped around and in control of this automobile. And throughout the land, Kirby is able to take control of a bunch of different things, giving himself new gameplay mechanics. With the car, he can go fast and slam into enemies. With the VLC media player, I mean the cone, he waddles real slow but can drill into cracked ground or slam into enemies. Or with the big letter O, he can blow air. And there are a few more mouthful mode abilities throughout the game, and they are all utilized in such creative ways. The mouthful mode mechanic sparked many comparisons to Mario's most recent outing, Super Mario Odyssey, and for good reason. Much like how Mario could throw cappy at hatless individuals and take control of their faculties, Kirby can now suck up various objects and take control of their faculties. But to me, that's where the comparisons with Odyssey end. Everything else in the Forgotten Kingdom is so clearly Kirby's take on Super Mario 3D World. The gameplay in Super Mario 3D World is separated into a series of fairly linear levels. Each level is placed throughout an overworld map that Mario and crew can walk to. There are also some side missions off the beaten path, and some secrets are found by pressing A. Each level has Mario running to the end, grabbing power-ups, and attempting to solve puzzles or do challenges to collect the hidden stars and other collectibles before reaching the goal. The gameplay of Kirby and the Forgotten Land is separated into a series of fairly linear levels. Each level is placed throughout an overworld map that Kirby and crew can fly to on his Warp Star. There are also some side missions off the beaten path, and some secrets are found by pressing A. Each level has Kirby running to the end, sucking up enemies to gain their powers, and attempting to solve puzzles or do challenges to collect the captured Waddle Dees and other collectibles before reaching the goal. I do not make this comparison as a slight against the game. I think the format works perfectly. There must have been some reason for HAL Laboratories to keep Kirby in 2D all these years, but seeing how Mario 3D World, well, really Mario 3D Land, made 3D Mario feel like 2D Mario must have inspired the team to translate Kirby's gameplay in a similar fashion. And I do have to hand it to Kirby in one case specifically, where in Mario 3D World the map themes were more of a suggestion. All of the Kirby levels fit the map themes excellently, and it makes for a great thematic experience. The gameplay is of course a lot different than Mario. Kirby runs a lot slower and relies on sucking and copy abilities for combat, where Mario utilizes items but is much more focused on platforming. As such, Kirby has a higher emphasis on combat and puzzle solving. Solving the puzzles usually relies on Kirby utilizing a specific copy ability or mouthful mode. Most of the copy abilities from the past make their return, like fire, hammer, sword, bomb, with new additions like being able to drill into the ground or gun. Each copy ability has a few different modes of attack, triggered by standing still, running, holding the attack button, or being in the air. Kirby also has a block button this time around, and by moving while blocking, this turns into a dodge roll, which becomes incredibly useful during the harder bosses. There's even a witch time mechanic when dodging perfectly, which was great to get in an extra hit or two. I didn't like every copy ability. I basically never used wind or spike outside specific levels, but drill and gun were really nice additions. In the end, I found sword and fire to be my go-tos. Each level has a splattering of enemies and hazards that Kirby needs to navigate through. Each level also has quite a few secret goals that reward extra Waddle Dees. Often these goals are to find the hidden path off to the side, or finish a side room perfectly, or beat a boss with a specific item or without getting hit. Each level is actually pretty short when just running through, so going back in for any missed side goals is fairly quick. But aside from just enemies and side paths, the levels are also filled with a series of collectibles. There are 5 main collectibles throughout each level. The main is cash money, or coins. Coins can be found laying around inside unbloomed flowers within defeated enemies, and my personal favorite, in large piles as rewards for puzzles. Also hidden in flowers, but usually just laying around, is a wide assortment of food for Kirby to eat, which naturally refills his health. And don't forget to share after eating something. If you bump into your co-op partner, it'll also heal them a bit. Gachapon trophies are sometimes hidden, sometimes rewarded, and at the end of the level, Kirby opens them and finds a trophy of something from the game. The in-level Waddle Dees are hidden behind puzzles and side rooms, and their cries ring out when Kirby is near them. Lastly, the rarest collectibles are blueprints, which allow Kirby to upgrade his copy abilities to be much stronger. And it's important to upgrade your abilities, because when you use them, your co-op partner will also get stronger. After rescuing a Waddle Dee, Kirby sends them back to Waddle Dee Town. As he rescues more, the town gets larger and larger, and a few side activities are built. These are made for Kirby to either get a few extra coins or to spend those extra coins. I didn't spend too much time with any of the games. The fishing minigame is alright, and there's a really neat but short marble motion puzzle game. I also didn't buy much, but Kirby can purchase food and power-ups to take into different levels. What I did spend a lot on was the gacha machines. Just gotta get the rest of those little statues, gotta turn the crank just one more time. 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 The store I spent the most time in was the upgrade shop, where Kirby can spend coins and a new item, rare stones, to make copy abilities stronger and flashier. Lastly, there is a Coliseum that is just a boss rush mode, but good for grinding coins. Aside from the main levels, the overworld map has treasure zones that reward the rare stones. These rooms are tests of skill for specific abilities. They require Kirby to either solve puzzles or defeat enemies with a specific ability before the timer runs out. The abilities tested are usually copy abilities, but the hidden treasure zones test the mouthful mode abilities too. There's an optional goal time that rewards a few extra coins if met, but it's not tracked for completion, so eventually I stopped doing them. The game has a few different worlds, and none of them get too challenging, but each is just as beautiful as the last. The game looks real good. From the overgrown city to the snow-covered town to the long abandoned amusement park, the art direction for each area and each level within is amazingly done. How Nintendo manages to make their games look amazing on the Switch, I'll never know, but I certainly won't get tired of it. Additionally, the music is on par with Kirby music from the past, which is to say it is great. Just banger after banger. The fully orchestral score does well to set the mood, and there's even an anime OP at the top, which was weird, but really worked. And this theme comes up throughout the rest of the soundtrack too. I especially loved how in cutscenes, the music acted as dialogue for the characters, Kirby being accompanied by twinkling piano only for the orchestra to come in as the sky ripped open was a really great touch. In traditional Kirby fashion, the final boss goes in an appropriate direction for a Kirby final boss. It has some really great shonen moments and manages to reuse earlier gameplay mechanics but makes them feel epic. And the Forgotten Land does one of my favorite things a game can do. It has a really good post-game. And it actually gets pretty difficult too. These new bosses were the only times I really died throughout the game. I do think the last few moments of the post-game were a bit too combat focused. I started to grow weary of it. The post-game levels are all really well done. They played into the part of me that loves exploring every nook and cranny to collect everything, while adding new twists to the reused mechanics to add just a bit more to an already great game. Unfortunately, there was one puzzle that really made me mad. The game makes you intuit to get a specific ability in a prior area and keep it for much longer than you'd think because it doesn't appear in the next. I had to restart the level and was pretty annoyed. But this is the only place in the entire game that this happens. Every other part of the post-game was a challenging and fun romp. Heck, every other part of the game was a fun romp, if not entirely challenging. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is a really, really good game. It's not the hardest game in the world, but I think that's fine. Not every game needs to be super hard, else nobody new to gaming would ever start playing anything. The multiplayer isn't going to be great for everyone, but every level is so excellently designed, the music is great to listen to, and everything looks so pretty, regardless of who you're playing as. Overall, I give Kirby and the Forgotten Land a Kirby Vord a car out of 10. Alternate score, they gave Kirby a gun out of 10. Thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Kirby in the comments below. And while you're down there, maybe leave a rating on the video and subscribe if you'd like to. If you want to follow me on other sites, all my links are in the description. They're all at Mario8. One of these days, I do want to finally try out Kirby Planet Robobot. There are just too many games to play. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. See you next time.